Hello everyone, welcome to Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life by Veena World. Sunila, we are going to talk about a destination that I think both of us have been to probably more than 20, 30 times. And we keep going there anytime we head east of Asia. Probably, I think one of the first destinations outside of India that I visited was also Singapore. And yep, listeners, we are going to talk about Singapore, Singapura, or whatever it was
The
called,
Lion City.
the Lion City, it was called
Yes.
earlier. And we've been there so many times. So, let's not talk of everything that most YouTube videos would have spoken of. Singapore's open again to travel. Singapore is open again to also be a one-stop destination as transit while going to Australia, while going to New Zealand, while sometimes going to Japan, or sometimes if you want to take a long flight to the US. So what's new in Singapore? I think that's a good point to start. Sunila, what's new in Singapore?
Neil, there are many things, but let's start with the sweetest thing that is new. And the sweetest thing to really come to Singapore after New York and Austin is a museum of ice cream. So the next time you go to Singapore, you can actually visit an ice cream museum. There are lots of exhibits out there. I think there are more than 14 exhibits that you can visit inside. And you can also, of course, taste the ice cream. There are different ticket packages, and if you want, you can even take one that allows you unlimited ice cream, so you can keep tasting different types of ice cream. There is a room which is just full of sprinkles, like the sprinkles that we would put on top of ice cream. And these are like soft ones, so you can actually sit inside and really have fun, be a child, do anything you want. So it's pretty interesting to see that you have something like an ice cream museum. They do tell you when and how the art of making ice cream started. What was it, that goes to making ice cream? How do you make it? Needless to say, it's all candy colored and beautiful. What is really interesting, because daytime admission here is from like say 10 to 5:30. Of course, you need to keep checking, because with the regulations and with everything happening, things are still opening up. So anything we mention may be changing on a daily basis as well. And right now it's actually open more towards the weekend, the museum. But Neil, what I found interesting was, I mean, generally you think of ice cream and you think of kids, right? But this museum has an entry for adults kind of only after the evening. So from 6 until late night, you can, it's like adult based games, unlimited ice cream treats, of course, a Hendrix gin cocktail if you want, and adult centered games and things to be done. So you can enter from 6 p.m. and stay until night. And it's kind of, I think, really popular with friends, to go in and just have a great night out at an ice cream museum, which for me was quite surprising.
I think that post evening or keeping it open for nights is such a Singaporean thing to do, right? Because Singaporeans don't have 3 meals in a day. They take their
Yeah.
food very seriously, and they are supposed to have like 4 meals. So you'll have a breakfast, you'll have your lunch, you'll have your dinner, and they have something called supper. So people tend
Mm.
to have supper also, and often you'll see places that are open not only deep into the night but like into the wee hours of the morning, and they'll be having different types of things at different times. So you would imagine that you will have something light at night, but there is like roti paratha is what they
Mm.
call it, which is basically roti or paratha, which with like curry. And Singaporean, like in Singapore there are people from four ethnicities, I would say. One is the Chinese, the Malays, the Tamils, and then the fourth one being a mix of everything that is there, right? So you have different kinds of influences all across. So that is quite a big thing. And I, while researching for this episode, I also came across this super nice analogy. Singapore was basically houses on sticks before it became the Singapore that we know today, right? So it
Mm.
went from a house on sticks just floating on water to a
Mm.
boat floating on three buildings, which is the Marina Bay
Mm.
Sands, right? And if you
Yeah.
look at it, that is how Singapore has progressed over the years, and it just feels beautiful. So what else is there? Like, of course, there's the F1 that is returning back to Singapore. What else can you do in Singapore? Because there's there's so many different things that you can do, right? There's incredible experiences that you can have. I think I remember the Singapore Flyer had this option of having dinner on the flyer. Singapore's famous for shopping, and my friend Rushabh called me a couple of hours ago. He just had a newborn, and he was like, "Neil, is someone coming from Singapore? Because I need to get this car baby seat for my daughter." And I was like, "Dude, just order, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, but if I order, it's for 35,000 rupees, and if I have to pay customs on it, it might be 30% or sometimes 70%. So I'm thinking of just flying there and getting this." And I was just like, why would you fly to Singapore just to get a baby seat? But that being said, people go to Singapore just to shop for the weekend also. So what are some of the reasons that you will say, Neil, these should be your new reasons to go to Singapore?
Neil, I think the episode we have to try and keep it under 20. But when we think of it, new reasons to go to Singapore and old reasons, I think any reason right now is a great reason, because the very fact that it is opening up and we can travel is so nice that you can get there. And like you said, Singapore started off as being a part of a multi-country itinerary, right? People would not go just to Singapore and come back. They didn't see any value in that earlier. So it was Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia at least. And from there, we've come to a point where you can spend a week in Singapore and still do all the favorite and popular attractions and new things. So I think, let's start with, I wouldn't say new, but something that we would not really associate Singapore with. Because when we think of Singapore, what comes to mind, of course, are theme parks. And there are so many theme parks to have a lot of fun here. You can actually stay in the theme parks as well, right? Like you can stay in Sentosa, you can stay at Universal Studios. So Resorts World Singapore and Sentosa Singapore, the two major attractions on an island, and you can get across. You can do the cable car out here. So many different things to do. All the theme rides, all the attractions, roller coasters, rides. You name it and you have it, kind of thing. And from morning until night, so you could really spend a lot of time. Of course, there are water parks as well. So Resorts World has an Adventure Cove water park, and we were there a few years back, and it was a lot of fun, where they've even actually created artificial waves and things like that. So you can have a lot of fun there. You have Jurong Bird Park, and you can do so many things in the bird park. There is the river safari. It's just endless as to man-made attractions that are done in Singapore. But let's kind of come to something else, and let's talk of nature and recreation. And one of the things we don't often associate Singapore with is actually walking or hiking. And there are some amazing hiking trails in Singapore that you could be a part of. So, to give you some examples, because there are many, but let's just stick to one or two. In fact, the last time I visited the botanical gardens and the orchid park, I realized that it's really wonderful to walk in. There is so much that you can do there, and you can just keep walking out there. One of the other places, really, if you want to walk on the height and enjoy a treetop walk, is the Macritchie Reservoir Park. So once you get here, you have these beautiful panoramic views of the forest. You're walking at 25 meters above ground, and it's a beautiful 250-meter long treetop walk that you could be enjoying things. So you want a real high, you can go up there and walk all you want. One of my favorite ones, and actually I've not been here, but I had been researching about it, and that's definitely something I will do the next time I get there, is something called the Southern Ridges. So the Southern Ridges, this route kind of starts at the MRT, the Mass Rapid Transit. That's how people get across in Singapore, at the harbor front. And it takes it's a good 10-11 kilometer walk, so you can keep walking out there, and it takes you via Mount Faber Park, and it ends at Kentridge Park. What is interesting here, Neil, is something that every Instagram person, anyone who loves to post pictures on Instagram, would really love, or even otherwise, just to go and enjoy, is something called the Henderson Waves. And the Henderson Waves have become an example of excellent architecture. And it actually looks, it's a bridge. So it's a bridge that is constructed in the form of a wave, and that undulating shape of the wave, you have the view of the entire greenery from on top of the bridge. And there are lots of little niches that you can sit in. There are benches to sit. You can go relax on top of the wave, and you can actually see the entire area from there. So that's something you should definitely not miss. And even for couples, it's really romantic, because every evening from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m., they're beautifully illuminated. So Henderson Waves and Southern Ridge is something I will say definitely don't give up. There are, of course, other wetland reserves, and then there are, you can even take a ferry and go to Pulau Ubin, which is one of Singapore's little islands, and then walk for another 40 minutes to reach Czech Java wetlands. And then again, you can hike out there. Bukit Timah Nature Reserve, Fort Canning Park, these are all places that you can actually enjoy hiking. And when it comes to just walking or cycling or enjoying other things, then I really like the East Coast Park. So the East Coast Park is this entire long area which is developed all along the Singapore's coast. Gardens, you name it. And, I've seen so many people cycle out there. There are cycles you can rent, you can walk. And yes, there are hawker centers there. So that was one of my favorite things to do, is to walk along and then have a really nice evening at a hawker center.
We'll come to the hawker centers, but I'd like to add some more to the list. So you mentioned Jurong Bird Park. In Jurong now they have also started go-karting. So when you're in
Yes.
Singapore, like Singapore is a thing, like is a city where you can do small activities, right? You can go shopping to what, Orchard Road or Takashimaya, or you can just go to a hawker center and eat. So there's go-karting that you could probably do a small excursion for. So going from one point of Singapore to the other point of Singapore, it shouldn't take you more than like 75 minutes. But Jurong is that 50-minute drive or 40-minute drive from wherever you could be. But one of the best things to do is taking the MRT. So you can certainly take the public transport and go for this. There is, you mentioned an ice cream museum,
Museum.
right?
Mhm.
But if you go to the Science Center, there is also a new museum that has opened up. And that museum is called Know Your Poop. Basically,
Mm.
just how, like, what different types of poops are there and everything, like, everything related to
Mm.
poop is at that museum. That was one. Sentosa Island, which has been, we see the small Merlion right
Mm.
opposite the Marina Bay Sands, right? And everyone's taking
Yeah.
photos. And then you go to Sentosa Island, you see the big Merlion, which is
Yeah.
basically like the lion city, and that's why the lion and half fish. So Sentosa has got this new panoramic ride called Star Helix, so which is again something that goes up in the air and you can
Mm.
get a nice panoramic view of Sentosa and of course Singapore. That was one thing. Another thing is that, similar to ice cream, similar to Know Your Poop, there is also a instant noodles playground that has opened in Singapore. So basically it's a playground. So Singapore is a city where there there aren't many forests, right? You said that there are many
Mm.
reserves. I think on last count there were 5 natural reserves that you can go to.
Yeah.
You can do your hikes, you can do your treks. But Singapore is a city where the government owns almost
A
all
lot.
of the land, and the residents can stay in many of these buildings on a 99-year lease. Now what happens at the end of 99 years, no one knows, right? Because the country has not
Mm.
completed 99 years. So
Mm.
people don't know what's going to happen at the end of 99 years. But when you roam around Singapore, if you walk around, you'll see many playgrounds. Similarly, a noodle playground has also opened. So that is something quite interesting. Speaking of hawker centers, and because I like food, Singapore has its own fair share of special dishes that you should definitely try. So I would say there is the Hainanese chicken rice that everyone talks about.
Always
For the
has.
Indian palate, sometimes it may appear very bland, but it is basically boiled chicken and rice. But the rice is made, generally we boil rice in water, right? But this
Mm.
water is basically chicken stock, ginger, and garlic, if I'm not wrong. And the rice has this fragrant thing, and that I think is amazing. So that's chicken rice. What else can you think of? I can also think of the black carrot cake and the white carrot cake, which which is amazing. Then there are many
I think the
yamcha
sambal
places. Yeah.
stingray,
Oh yeah, the
the
sambal stingray
sambal
at
stingray, that was
the
so good.
at what,
And
Newton Circus, right? Is
Newton
where
Circus,
we tried
that's
it.
right.
That's the
Yes.
sambal stingray is incredible. Wow, having that
And Singapore
stingray,
crabs.
yeah.
I mean,
The
you
Singapore
have to
chili
have the
crab
chili
and
crab.
then the black pepper crab.
Correct.
Those
Two
are two things.
things.
If you are a
Yeah.
vegetarian and are okay having egg, then you can try the black carrot cake and the white carrot cake. And this is not carrot cake how we get it
Mm.
in Mumbai at bakeries. This is like a carrot cake that is stir fried with egg, and that is quite good. If you like seafood, there is the seafood hor fun, HORFUN, which is basically like this eggy sauce with some noodles and all of that. What else? What else? The custards are good. There is a place called Papa Roti, which is similar to the one in Bombay, but there's a huge chain and they have a custard bun. And I think whenever I would be in Singapore, I would have that custard bun, and that would be the reason I'd put on 2 or 3 kilos. So that's there. What else is there? There's the yamcha brunch on Christmas Day that you can certainly do. But you know what I also found, Sunila? The Singapore
Mhm.
sling, right?
Yes.
Everyone talks about it,
Uh,
but Singaporeans hate it. It's just a tourist gimmick, is what they say. And I think it was at the Raffles Hotel that
the Raffles
the
Hotel, at the bar of the Raffles.
yeah, the Singapore sling
Yeah.
became famous. Now, I have one question before you move on to your next points.
Mhm.
Changi was just 3 terminals earlier, but now there is a shopping mall which we've covered at like during another episode of ours. But what is that shopping mall? And there's something unique in it, the indoor fountain or something, right?
Yes,
Like,
Neil. So the shopping mall really, it's like the jewel of Singapore, and it is the jewel. So it's called the Jewel Changi Airport, and there are so many things to do out there. As soon as you enter, it's connected to Terminal 3, so you can go in there, and from Terminal 3 you can just walk across and you reach Jewel Changi. A lot of people actually really like to go early to the airport so that you can get to enjoy this. And we've spoken of this, that sometimes you think that you could just go to an airport and come back. You don't need to go to a destination. And I think Jewel Changi is a place like that, because it just shows you and showcases everything that Singapore has to offer. So of course they have restaurants, they have Singapore chili crab, and you can do all of that, or they even have the South Indian restaurants. So the mix that Singapore is, you get a good choice and good variety out there. The main attraction, of course, is the vortex, or the waterfall right in the center. And that's just simply amazing. When you go on top, you have nets on which you can play. You can walk through a maze. There is a glass, mirror as well that you can walk through. There is a suspension bridge, so you can go out there, and there is a botanical garden. So they have butterflies and flowers and everything. So you can, and then shops, needless to say, there is an Apple shop at the Jewel Changi as well. So you can do so many things out there, and you can check in. If you're flying Singapore Airlines, you can actually go and check in out there at Jewel Changi as well. So that's something that you should definitely not miss if you've not been to Singapore in the last few years. Surely that is one place that you can go and should go there.
great. Now, what are some of the memorable experiences you've had in Singapore, or what are some things that you'll tell people that okay, remember that you should definitely do this now that Singapore's opened up?
Neil, I think I'd like to talk about different ways to explore Singapore. Like you can, like we say, wherever you go, if you don't walk the place, you don't take a walking tour, you don't really get to know the city. So of course there are many different walking tours here as well, and multicultural tours as well. So to discover the different neighborhoods of Singapore, so you can go and discover Chinatown, you can go and discover Little India, you can walk through Marina area, you can walk through all of that, and a walking tour is a good place to start. What I really enjoyed the last time I was there, and this is something I really like people to do, and I always tell people, if you go to Singapore, by day, go through all the theme parks, go to all the bird parks and everything, come back, have a nice shower, and then set out to discover Singapore in the evening, because it's just magical. It's really beautiful. And on my last trip, I had a chance to do a trishaw tour. So it's like cycle rickshaw in simple words, and you have a person driving, he's pedaling the cycle, electric cycles, and then you're seated, in a nice sidecar, and they take you through Singapore. And we did it in the evening, and it was so pretty because it takes you to all of Singapore's colorful districts, and it's quite sweet. The people who do it is called trishaw uncle. So in Singapore, they do refer to a lot of people as uncle and auntie when they are speaking about other people, just similar to India. So it was quite interesting, and they take you through the different routes that you want to go to. You can also see Singapore by a Segway. So you can take a Segway and go across Singapore if you don't want to walk. And it's a lot of fun to do that too. And then you have the bike tours also. So you can bike through Singapore everywhere. You can do a historical tour of Singapore. And the advantage, of course, is that you can get into smaller lanes and byways. You can also do like a kick scooter, so you can do something like that. And one more chance I had to see Singapore a little differently was on a scooter with a sidecar. So, there are different companies who would do that for you. And you can again take this scooter and go across Singapore everywhere. I think one thing, like coming back to the point to see Singapore in the evening, take Singapore River Cruise and take it in the evening. It is just beautiful. So, you can go to Clark Key or Boat Key, the places. Again, that itself is a nice location to spend an evening. But a river cruise in the evening, you're just gently sailing through the waters, and then you see the Merlion, you see the Marina Bay Sands, Fullerton Hotel, and the whole skyline of Singapore. It's very beautiful, and end it with when you're there at Marina. So the Marina area, if you stand there, you see the light and sound show of Marina Bay Sands. The Fullerton Hotel is really close by, and it's the best place to take pictures. So, you can just have a nice, peaceful time in the evening there as
So
well.
would you say that, see, it's one of the only three surviving city states in the world, the other two being Monaco and the Vatican City, right?
Mhm.
So Singapore doesn't have a lot of natural wonders, right? You go to the US, you have the Grand
Mhm.
Canyon. You go to
Mhm.
Australia, you have the 12 Apostles. And there are many like this all around the world, but Singapore is such a small place. So, would you say Singapore is a new place that you visit every time that you be there? Like every time that you go there, because it's about the experiences, right? There is, so when I first went in 1993 or 94, I was like 3 or 4 years old then. That time, of course, Night Safari was there, Jurong Bird Park was there, and there were a few other things. Then suddenly Marina Bay Sands pops up. Then there is the one altitude bar which came up on top of the
Yes.
UOB building, I think, if I'm not wrong. Then Mustafa has always been there as the shopping paradise for all Indian travelers. If you're looking for luxury shopping, there was Orchard Road and there's Takashimaya. Then suddenly Universal comes in there. So would you say that, because I still have many experiences that I may mention, but would you say that Singapore is a place that you should continue visiting every 2 years, or how would you like plan Singapore? Because if you do an easy Google, you'll probably be like, okay, there are 50 things that I should do,
Mhm.
because I've been prawning, right? Going to the
Yes.
prawning center, which is basically you sit there and it's fishing for prawns. Whatever prawns you catch, you can barbecue them, and that's done. It's a little far away, but it's super interesting. So you can just have your drink and you can just sit there fishing. And I've gone there at midnight, come back home at 6 with my friends who live there. So what, like, how would you plan a trip to Singapore? How do you decide what I should do and what I could miss out?
You're right, Neil. And before we come to that, just want to add one more point to all the points that you listed out. And that is, yes, Singapore has not so much of natural wonders, but it's whatever it has, it's amazing because it's also nature and nurture, right? So you have so much of amazing, like trees, and you see so much greenery in Singapore. So some of it is natural, some of it is planted, and that is why I think you call Singapore a city in a garden. That is what they say about Singapore. And one of the other things that came up, which was not there before, is Gardens by the Bay. So a lot of people who visited Singapore, say, 15, 20 years back, will also have a point to go, because Gardens by the Bay has this amazing cloud forest and the flower dome, two domes out there, cloud forest and flower dome, and the super trees, and then restaurants on top of the super trees, like connecting on the bridges that connect the super trees. So there is something to do all the time. And yeah, every few years I think you can look at coming back to Singapore. If you're planning it, I would say, if you're just looking at a weekend break, a good 3 night break is good. But it depends again, is it your first visit or is it your second visit? If it's your first visit, then you'd probably want to see Universal Studios, you would want to visit Resorts World, you would want to visit Sentosa, and that itself can take a lot of time. So 2 full days for two parks, and then that leaves you with a little time to maybe shop on Orchard Road, or use the evenings for different food and experiences at hawker centers, or these so many amazing restaurants that Singapore has. It has some really good restaurants. You mentioned one altitude that has an amazing view. So I think in the day it's about play, and in the evening it's about the views and the illumination and the food and everything that you get by. If you have a little longer time, then I would suggest, and especially if you're traveling with families, then definitely stay on Sentosa or stay at Universal. It saves a lot of time and you can go on having fun till late. So, 1 or 2 nights at the resorts and then 3 days in the city, and you have a really nice 5 day itinerary that you can do that. If you're coming in second time, maybe you don't want to go back and see the attractions that you've been to before, and then you can start early, do a hiking trip. In the day you could go shopping to the different malls that are coming up and which are already there. Ion on Orchard Road is a great example of luxury shopping and all kinds of different varieties. There are some even outlet shops that you could go to and just loads and loads of shop, from jewelry to food to clothing, shoes, everything that you can think of, you get out there. So definitely a 5 6 nighter is good. And then if you have more time, then you can start exploring islands nearby. So you could go to Bintan, which is a part of Indonesia, or Bintan Island for 2 3 nights, and it's just a ferry away. Or you can connect to Bali, because to fly to Bali, Singapore becomes one of the best hubs. And then you can combine the Singapore, Bali, or like we said earlier, Thailand, Malaysia, and all the other countries nearby. That also works well. If you're flying towards Australia or New Zealand, then you would probably be taking, Singapore Airlines, and it's really easy to feature a 2 nighter just to maybe go and see something you haven't done before. So you can then skip out everything else and just go see that one attraction that you missed on your last trip to Singapore. So yes, I think once things open out, and in fact it is happening. You mentioned Jurong Bird Park is far away. They have a plan with the whole river in Singapore, where in a few years it is called the Mandai project, and Jurong Bird Park will be moved here. So you will have the zoo, the Jurong Bird Park, and everything in all close proximity, and you can see it really easily. So there's always going to be something new coming up. I would say every 2 years at least you need a trip to Singapore.
And would you call Singapore an expensive destination? How should someone budget for it? Because let's see, like Mustafa gives you great like good quality items, and I
Mhm.
used to go there a lot when I was initially going to Singapore. Then I met locals from my times in Australia and all of that, and now I know many other places that you can go shop at. But like, would you classify Singapore as a cheap country, an expensive country, or somewhere in the middle?
I think, Neil, again, there it'll depend on what it is it that you're looking for. I don't think it's very expensive, but I don't think it's a cheap destination as well. It's definitely not a cheap destination, as we can call it. But yes, if you're looking for something that is pocket friendly, and especially at Veena, where we can help you plan that and suggest things for you. And by making a few changes, we can really bring down the price of your holiday quite a bit. So it really depends on what it is that you want. You don't have to stay right on Orchard Road and pay extra dollars. You can move a little away and stay in a kind of a comfortable but slightly more economical accommodation, and that will help you save on the money a lot. You can use the public transport to move around and again save money a lot. You can eat at hawker centers, and that's not very expensive. So you eat at many other even Indian restaurants out there, tiffin centers like they call it. So it depends on what you're looking for, what are the attractions, what is the experience that you're looking for, and you can really build up your program. Now, if you want to go and live in Marina Bay Sands, then of course there is a price to pay. Or if you want to live at one of the beautiful luxury hotels that surround the marina area, and have a look or have a view of the Marina Bay Sands from your room in the night, then yes, you definitely will have a price to pay. But again, choosing, and there are different passes that you can take, right, which give you a little bit, makes it more economical to travel. If you're traveling in a group, you're traveling in a family, again you can kind of utilize these passes or make it a little more economical for you. So definitely you can have a great holiday without having to cut your pockets for sure. So
You mentioned, like, you could stay at the Marina Bay Sands and like have a view of Singapore.
mhm.
And like, it just reminded me that we did a podcast a couple of days ago about the Mona Lisa on the new podcast that we have, right? Know the Unknown. Now, in that, I mentioned one point that a better photo of to click at the Louvre is not of the Mona Lisa, but is of the people who are clicking a photo of the Mona Lisa, because that's an incredible photo.
Yeah.
And everyone keeps taking a photo of the Mona Lisa. No one clicks of this. So you can be slightly different there. So I also often feel that, everyone clicks a photo of the Marina Bay Sands, right? And
Yeah.
your photo is going to look the same as everyone has seen. But if you click a photo from Marina Bay Sands, and you need not live there, because you can just cycle around the Marina Bay Park and click a photo of Singapore city. That is one incredible photo, and that showcases how Singapore has developed over a period of time. Of course, you mentioned that Singapore is a mixed bag, but I would also like to point out that if you have a lot of money lying around, go to the Singapore Formula One, because Singapore, and then I think Monaco is top up there, like, in terms of F1, but Singapore comes very close. And if you think that Monaco is quite expensive and you can't take your budget that 10% high, like higher, then you go to Singapore, because Singapore gives you an incredible experience. And Sunila, what was that hotel, that super like traditional looking hotel? Was it the Fullerton or something, from where you can get a view of the race? I don't remember.
Yes, Neil, the Fullerton is a great option, and I think one of the best hotels in Singapore, definitely with or without the Grand Prix, to live in, because you always have a great view and you're always so well located. And the hotel itself is like a destination. You would love to stay there. Of course, if that is a little too heavy on your pocket, and especially during the Grand Prix, because it is going to be expensive. Some of the other options are the Swiss Hotel, the Stanford, Pan Pacific Hotel, the Marina Bay Sands, of course, the Raffles and the Ritz Carlton and the Mandarin Oriental. These are all, like what they say, the trackside hotels that you can you spend on the hotel, but then I think you don't even need to buy the race tickets, because you can just sit in the hotel and watch the race going on. And Singapore has an amazing night race, so that'll be really nice.
Well, that is one of my bucket list items. Sometime in the future, maybe, like I can go there. But Sunila, I think that's it, right? Like, I think we've covered a fair bit. We've covered of what's new in Singapore. We've covered how Singapore is a different destination if you keep visiting it every year or every 2 years. But great. Thanks a lot, Sunila. I think what I was also thinking was travel, explore, celebrate life is something which happens every week, right? So now that you and I are going to be traveling, and you are going to Australia next month, we should probably just carry our mics along with us. So we'll probably have different backdrops, and we'll probably record our episodes in that manner.
I really look forward to that. That will be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sunila. Thank you so much, listeners and viewers. We will see you next week with another episode. Travel, explore, celebrate life. Goodbye.